should be looking at is folder 2 on Leo. So depending on whether you're EDST535 or 275, you'll be in the multimodal lecture and workshop 4, and there'll be a number of folders, and you should be at folder 2. And when you get into folder 2, you should be following the instructions as per, as soon as I can find these instructions, following the instructions as per how to, what you need to be doing today. And so once you have gone into part B, folder 2, this is where it's all about writing up a lesson plan, you will start watching this video. This video may not be in the folder if it's too big. You may find it in the module underneath all the folders, and I'll still name it so that you can see it properly. Obviously, if you're listening to it, you have already done so. So what you need to do is in that folder, you can open up the lesson plan template, and you can also open up your allocations for assessment task 3, because the most important thing to know is that this lesson plan assessment task cannot be on anything you've been allocated to for your assessment task 3, the resource booklet. So your assessment task 2 on the lesson plan has to be on something different. Any other area of study or unit of study or key knowledge area is fine. So for example, if today I wanted to create a lesson on parts of the brain, and I wanted to teach my class about parts of the brain, first of all, what I need to do is my part A teaching philosophy statement. Okay, so this is all here. For assignment 2, part A, 250 words, and then a 75-minute lesson plan for a specified topic under study with the current study design, the new study design, 2,000 words for grad dip ed MTeach, and 1750 for BTBA. So you need to pop your teaching philosophy in first, and then you have your lesson plan. So your topic or focus, you will need to actually go to, apologies for how many screens I have up. I know it's incredibly frustrating. It's frustrating for me. Come in.
Morning tea.
I'd just love a cup of tea, please. Just white. Yeah, thank you. Sorry, guys. It's morning tea time here. So from here you can choose whatever area of study that you are interested in. Obviously I would be looking at area of study 1 and looking at the brain, and particularly looking at the role of the cerebral cortex, thank you, the role of the cerebral cortex in the processing of sensory information, the initiation of voluntary movements, language, symbolic thinking, regulation of emotion, including localization of function. So that's the key knowledge area or topic or focus I would be putting in here. And I would also be putting in my Unit 1, AOS 1. The date, I'll just be putting in the date that I'm actually writing up my lesson plan, because obviously it would normally be the date of your lesson on practicum. Your associate teacher, you can just leave completely blank, because of course you don't know who your associate teacher is. But year level and subject, you'd be saying BCE Unit 3. So the year levels in there could be Year 10 and Year 11. Of course, you'll be formatting this far nicer than I will. Lesson duration is, of course, 75 minutes, and you really must stick to that. School, you can make it up. St. Mary's Hospital School is where I work in right now. It's not St. Mary's, but anyway. St. Mary's Hospital School for the gifted, or whatever you would like to have it as. Number of students entirely up to you. 30 is a fairly good number. Of course, you're not looking at vowels. It's now the Victorian curriculum anyway. You're not looking at religious education. You're looking at the VCE study design and outcome. So here you would be actually copying Unit 1, how behaviour mental process is shaped. Area Study 1, all of this information, how does the brain function, and then your exact key knowledge area. So there's 3 elements there that I should see in your lesson plan to show me exactly which part of the study design and outcome you're looking at. Lesson outcomes and indicators. This is where students lose a lot of marks on. Now, an outcome is what the students know, and the indicator is what they show to show you what they know. So, for example, the student will understand the location and function of the frontal lobe. Okay, so that's the outcome and the indicator by creating a plasticine model of this area and writing a label of its name and a description of its function. Okay, so I should see a number of those because, of course, if I'm doing the entire brain, then that's going to happen for frontal lobe, the temporal lobe, the occipital lobe, and the parietal lobe, and potentially the somatosensory cortex and motor cortex. Okay, but what I can see here is that what the student will know and how the student's going to know it, how I'm going to know that the student knows, what they're going to show. So the student will is how we always started out, and then it needs to have in there that showing of understanding or what the knowledge is, and then how they're going to show that. Teaching materials of preparation, of course, I'm going to be putting in Play-Doh, I'm going to be putting in whiteboard markers, etc., etc., whiteboard, interactive whiteboard, student use, pens, plasticine, you know what I mean, plasticine, etc., etc. Lesson procedure here, this is where you need to be really cautious of the time allocated and exactly what you're doing. So the introduction or focusing activity, I might begin with first of all, beginning my PowerPoint titled, whatever it's titled, the brain. And of course, if I'm using a PowerPoint in my lesson, I need to put that in my appendix. So, see appendix, and this is where you see that equivalent word count. See appendix, what have I got it as? 7. See appendix 7. Show images of finished gauge and nature of injury. Ask students what they think impact on behavior. Sorry, I'm trying to type fast because I'm conscious I've only got 100 megabytes to get this video done. Impact on behavior and cognition or feeling, etc., etc. So that would be essentially what this is. The introduction or focusing activity is the hook. What you get them to, what you use to get them interested in your class. Time allocated for that might be, 5 minutes, including discussion. So discussion of people putting up their hands and saying, oh, well, I think he's going to die, and oh, well, I think he's going to live, but he won't be able to see out of his eye, and all that sort of stuff. And then step by step, my lesson development. Okay, so thank you. So on the board, I might have, I might be go through slides, 2 to 4, and see appendix 7, and I then might and draw diagram on the board of brain and parts. Okay, and for each step I'm going to be talking about how long that's going to take. So that might take 10 minutes to do. Students to copy. Of course, you know that I'm doing this incredibly quickly, and you will do this far better than what I'm doing. Because as I'm doing the brain and its parts, while I write diagram on the board of the brain and its parts, I would expect you to actually tell me which areas of the brain and the parts you're actually putting on the board. Okay, so you need to do it in more detail than what I'm doing it here. This is just a very, very basic go through with you. Once I've done that, I might also then say, you know, step 2, students are then, you know, shown slides 5 to 8 on function of areas. Students are shown YouTube clip, and then I would be putting in my explanation or summary of what that is so that I know of clip, and also what the students are doing at this time. Are they taking notes? Are they just listening? Do you have guiding questions on the board? Etc, etc. And of course, I'll be having all of these things. So that's another 10 minutes. Then we have, another 10 minutes or 7 minutes, or you can be specific as you like. Of course, I'm doing this very quickly. For anything else that I do, such as students are given now a handout template of the brain to place the Play-Doh on, I would be referring to my appendix. And so there's a lot of things that I will probably include in my appendix and in my lesson development here that I need to add on the back at the end of my lesson plan. So as you can see here, I have a whole lot of things for my appendix. So say appendix, I've changed them from appendix A and B to numbers, but never mind. Appendix A, I might be, here's a student example of what it will look like at the end. Appendix B, here's the diagram that I give to my students. There's that handout. Appendix instead of C, appendix 3. This is the Phineas Gage document that I'm going to start the lesson with as my hook. So essentially I should probably have that as appendix A. Never mind. Anyway, so that's one of my resources. Appendix, well, we'll come to that, appendix 4. Okay, so I refer to all of my appendix there and essentially have my lesson continue for 75 minutes. Now my formative assessment, these are things that I need to be checking the entire time to make sure that learning is happening. Okay, so that I can check that they're understanding things and I can modify my teaching to improve their attainment of these abilities. Now I'm going to stop this slideshow now and come back to this. Stop this slideshow, stop this video now and come back to this, just so that it's not too long for me to upload. So this will be part A and there will be a part B.